Money management is a process of expense tracking, investment, budgeting, banking, and evaluating taxes of one's money, which is also called investment management. On today's program, we'll be talking money management. My guest host for the day is Joseph Osas. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you.
We also have as our guest Mr. Isaac ONOJA and Aisha Shuaibu. Ladies, gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us in today's program. How did you do budgeting during these holidays? How did you fare budgeting during these holidays? Because I personally, I did a lot of sleeping, very minimal shopping, because naturally I hate shopping, but very minimal shopping. So I didn't really have an issue with budgeting expenses, and, going out of my constrained budget. So I want to know from both of you how you fared this holiday season.
I mean, over the holidays, you can't really help spending because you have to give a lot of gifts. You want to spend some time with friends. You want to spoil family. So versus when you're working and the holidays, I think it's almost like a bit of a helpless situation. That money has to come out somehow.
somehow. How about you, Isaac?
Yeah, I have some staff, so you need to give them some Christmas and end of year bonuses. So it was quite interesting this year. We were able to give out some money, and for outsiders too, for friends and family, we have to send money. And it was quite challenging at a point where I needed to give some extra money to some people who just called that they had some needs. So December budget distortions and all that, yeah.
What are some steps we can take to be more prudent with our finances?
Okay, now, as spending, financial intelligence is very important in spending, because many times we spend out of emotions. We just become very emotional. Somebody tells you he had to buy a car because he needs to go and show off at home. If you go with your emotions and you don't add thinking to it, you run into problems. So we say in spending, always look at the consequence of your spending, the consequential thinking. What's going to be the outcome at the end of the day? If you spend so much and you come back and you're not able to meet up with your other needs, then you have a problem.
That really hit home for me, because one of my New Year resolutions was that I'm not going to be Mother Teresa this year. I'm just used to people telling me, oh, I have a problem, here's this money, here's this money. But I said to myself, no, I'm going to actually, if I must, be very altruistic, I need to pray about it and let God lead me. Because at the end of the day, you find that you spend so much money just, giving handouts. But I've broken the New Year resolution again. It's just in my nature. It's just something that comes naturally to me. So how do we deal with that emotional need to satisfy other people who are in need of petty amounts that you know that you can afford, but at the same time add up to bulk sums later on in the year? So,
for financial intelligence, of the problem around money, it's about fear and ignorance. Many times we're afraid of what people would say about us, or what people would say. If I don't give this, what would they say? Oh, everybody knows OSASU. If I go there, she gives me money. Then you become afraid of your image. What will be your image out there? But once you have information to know that things must be planned out, we talk about the logistics of spending. We talk about the planning, the implementation, and the controlling of the spending. So you add your thinking. We say, like Thomas Edison would say, 2% of the people of the earth think. 5% think, 15% think they're thinking, and 80% would rather die than think.
Wow.
So we need to think first. What will be the consequence of this spending? And follow your heart, especially when it now comes to you taking the consequence. Because many times we blame other people, say it was because Mary came that it happened. You don't take responsibility of the consequence. So number one, we should be responsible for our spending. It means we have the ability to respond. Once you have the ability to respond, it means you are thinking and adding to your feeling before you spend.
Okay. I think I like that. But I'll try this, Aisha. One of the favorite quotes of one of the favorite quotes of Warren Buffett says, spend what's left after savings. So, but most people find it difficult actually doing that. So I don't know if you have any particular step or framework to which people can achieve this. Because most people, their salary come in, they just spend it, they just go about buying things. They don't have any particular structure to how their spendings are supposed to go. If you work, you're supposed to have transportation and a lot of other things that you have 10%. Then if you have 5% for savings and all. So proper structure. I don't know if you have steps or structures to which people can achieve this.
Well, you know, in business, financial planning and budgeting is a very integral aspect of it. Even when people put business plans together, there has to be a financial section where you can state projections and put your business budget together. And, you know, it's one of those things that has to be followed very cautiously. In business, spending has to be very intentional. It has to be planned, and you have to be very careful, especially when you run an SME. Money is spent quicker than it's made. Okay. And you want to be as tactical, as careful as possible to put your finances, your capital in places where it can grow the business at a pace that is not overwhelming you, and so that you're able to sort of step back and look at your progress as you go along, and you don't you know, run your business down before it even takes off, which I think is a challenge for a lot of businesses. Not so many people are financial savvy, so it really helps to know what you want to do with your money before you go into that line of work that involves any form of spending at all.
Oh, okay. Thank you for that. So I will ask Mr. Isaac this particular one. Going back to salary.
Yeah.
When people have pay rise and their spendings just skyrocket, no plans for the future, what's the advice you give to people when pay rise comes in?
Okay. Now, pay rise does not solve financial problems. Parkinson's law states that expenses will always rise to meet income. It means if I'm earning 100,000, for instance, and I shop at Wuse Market, I go to the normal shops, then now my salary is now increased to 150. Now, that's 50% extra. Yeah. So I now leave Wuse Market and now go to where the big boys go. Now, what happens is, because of my taste, the expense, the increase has now been annulled by something that is completely emotional. Because I'm earning 100,000 and I cry out that it's not enough for me, it's not taking me home. Then it's moved to 150. Then after 2 months, I still cry out again. It means that the problem is not the increase. The problem is that the emotions of that man will not allow him. So we say when salaries are increased, maintain your status and save. And savings these days, not just to save and to keep, store away in the banks, is to invest what is saved. So that we now go through what we call the velocity of money. You give money power, give money velocity to run ahead of you, to make more money, so that you can now have so much after you have worked a while. If not, all this increase in salary and all that, I will assure you, it will always be swallowed up by expenses, because it always rise. Your status rises, you have to go to new places, you stop buying your normal shoes, you buy designer shoes, designer wristwatches. So you find that
you can no longer fly economy,
yeah,
you must fly business
and
first. But
so,
you know, both of you raised very salient points. You talked about the importance of savings, and I always reiterate this to my siblings, to my mentees, that whatever you make, try your best. I practice this. They say it's very difficult for them, but I save 70% of my income. Wow. I can do that in short-term and long-term savings. Long-term savings in properties, short-term savings in fixed deposits. You know, so I practice that, and that's the way I've been able to survive in the last 4 years. But in 2016, during the economic recession, I was hit badly. I just started my business in 2015. So I was reliant on a single source of income. So when the recession came, that business was no longer bringing in money. At one point, I remember I was so broke. I was like, Lord Jesus, help me, because I don't know how I'm going to survive this. But after that recession, I learned the importance of diversification, number one. And number two, I learned that most small to medium scale businesses end up packing up within the first year or two, because usually they hire more staff than they can afford. They do things that are, far and above their, financial capacity. So I really learned to grow slowly, take my time in the pace of, starting up and building my organization, number one, and diversifying my income. So I love the fact that both of you brought up SMEs, managing your resources and also saving also to help, in your financial management. But very lastly, planning for retirement is also one thing that we must talk about. A lot of people watching today are thinking, what are my retirement plans? When I'm 60 and I decide, okay, no more working for me, what do I have saved up? Most companies in Nigeria, it's actually required that you are pensionable, but most companies don't offer their employees pension, especially small to medium scale businesses. So what can people do? What's an effective means of managing money for the long run, especially for those people who will be entering retirement in the next 5 to 10 years?
Honestly, I don't think I can say too much about retirement because I'm so far from it. But I will say something about saving, and that it requires a lot of discipline. 2016, the year that you were talking about, when the recession really hit, a lot of people suffered that. Like, I was just starting out my business that year as well, and it was such a struggle because you believe that you are pushing as hard as you can to raise this capital and to create a vision, to create something out of an idea, and the economy just keeps pushing back. And this is a lot of issues that not only entrepreneurs but also people working in public service face. How do I save on minimum wage? How do I? But it requires a lot of discipline, and you need to sort of plan and think outside the box as well. You find nowadays that people have more than one job, more than one hustle, as some people would say, and you having more than one source of income sometimes is of benefit to your, what you have saved up, and sometimes you just have to pick that route, but saving what you're earning. Not a lot of people can do the 70-30 thing. Not a lot of people can even do 50-50, but you need the discipline to be able to set things aside, especially when you set goals, when you set targets. Oh, this year I would like to travel more. Oh, this year I would like to buy this. I'd like to get a car. I'd like to get my own house. Discipline is a part of the journey, and it's really tough for Nigerians. And I believe that it must be tough for people that are planning towards retirement as well.
Yes, definitely. Isaac?
It's very important we look at retirement because many people retire to die. Retire, and after 2 years they're dead. You find out why. Why do we have this trend? Now, if you buy a Toyota Corolla 2016 and park it for 4 years, then in 2020 you bring the key and you want to start and go to Lagos, would you get there? The car wouldn't even start. The number one thing we have found out is this, that when people start working, they put their brains to sleep. No engagement. You go to work, nothing is exciting, nothing is engaging. You yourself, you're not planning to do something for yourself in the future. People are just there, wake up, go to work, come back, sleep, wake up, go to work. The brains are not challenged. Once you have your brain not challenged and packed like that Toyota Corolla, once you are retired in 4 years, for instance, you will not be able to survive. I find a lot of, a woman called me 6 months at a time, and now her blood pressure was rising. That, can I help her? That is right in 6 months. I said, we'll see what we can do. I didn't want to give her the obvious or tell her the obvious, but of course, there's pressure already. What we advise is you do what you call start with the end in mind. Once you get into unemployment, have the end in mind. What am I going to do at the end? Always look at anytime there's an entry, you must have an exit. If a Chinese man enters any place, he will ask you for one question: where is the exit? Many people have entry plans, but no exit plans. And if you don't work out the plans from the beginning, once you retire and you want to go and start something, the brain doesn't work that way. You must do what we call skill acquisition while you're working, preparation for retirement, then seamless flow into retirement. So nothing really, you know, you don't feel the shock,
yes,
you know. Many people are shocked. Somebody say, you mean I'm retired? He wakes up after 35 years, I'm retired. As if 35 years was just yesterday. So
I love the point you just made. Start with the end in mind. I think that's a fine place to leave it. Isaac, Aisha, thank you so much for your time. We'd love to have you both back again. We'll take a break right now. When we return, we'll bring you social media trends. Don't go anywhere. And keep up with the conversation on our social media at Weekend Show NG on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter.
DAR Communications invites you to the 3rd DAR Awards, holding on the 19th of January 2019 at the International Conference Center, Abuja. This most anticipated event will celebrate leaders and outstanding contributors to all sectors of industry and communities in this great nation, with great entertainment from Two-Face, DJ Jimmy Jat, DJ Neptune, and many more. The 3rd DAR Awards.